This is October 24, 2017. The title of this word is The Next Step. We've been in a huge transition, especially since the words came about 10 days ago concerning where we're positioned and what we've been given, and yet the awakening that is awaiting us, that is yet to really happen. This refers back to the vision on Monday, a week ago Monday, that had to do with the light really coming on. And the experience of that was so crystal clear because it was an illumination within the whole soul mind that we have as it came alive and you were able to clearly see, which kind of just gives us an idea how everything is as we function. You know, we're functioning in the partial, coming out of the day of the partial. And the day of the fullness is earmarked or hallmarked with coming alive, waking up. What is the difference between the day of the partial and the day of the fulfillment? It's between being half asleep and coming fully awake. And so what happens when you come fully awake? It's the light that comes on within you. And all of a sudden, you see and you know. There's no more ifs, there's no more walking on water or believing. You know who you are, you know what you've been given, and you therefore know that there is nothing that will be withheld from you, and that you can do literally anything. It was that awakening that came that Monday morning at 4 that began to give us a glimpse of what to expect and what is coming now as the next experience, the next level that we're leaning into. So it's not necessarily going to be perhaps something that happens instantly as far as an entire level of experience, as much as it is something that we're leaning into that might be an awakening that just happens progressively over a week's time or 2 weeks' time or a few days, whatever. But there's a progressive level of awakening that's happening as God is bringing the culmination of the renewal of the mind, because, you know, the light doesn't come on and you fully see when you're functioning from an unregenerated mind. It has to come from a mind that has been completely redeemed into the mind of Christ. And more than we understand, that's what has been happening to us. God has been completing the work in delivering us out of the mind of the soul and completely into the mind of Christ. And thus, as I began to prophesy and I looked, and I saw the Lord, and yet it was me, but it was Him. It was that awareness. And these things are all kind of happening together. And so we've been looking at something that's been happening in the earth for really decades. It's been a torrent of lies, deception, control, manipulation, and darkness that has been flowing into the earth for many, many, many decades. The only answer to that influx is the word that will begin to come now out of the mouths of the sons. We spoke earlier that, you know, it's in many ways it's like the book of Ezekiel 47, where the waters flowing from the house or the throne become so great that one cannot even ford them. At first the waters are like a trickle, a stream, and then to your ankles, and then to your knees, and to your loins, and then you can't even pass through. And you say, well, what, Lord, are you really saying here? But it's speaking, the vision is speaking about the word that begins to flow forth from the sons. as they fully wake up. And the more they wake up, the more they realize what they have to do, the more the word is being spoken. And it becomes something that is just a flood tide to such a level that it can counteract all of that which has flown into the earth for these last decades, by the hosts of darkness. And if you go further into Ezekiel 48, you see where the rivers are given to the healing of the nations. And so what happens with the word that is being spoken out of the mouths of the sons? Well, in the final analysis, this word is a word of life. And it will be a word and is a word of healing to the nations. But first it has to start. It's got to start flowing. The beginning of Ezekiel 47 has to begin. And so, what is the next step? The next step is that we begin to speak the word. But we're not approaching this like we have in the past. Oh, well, you just speak the word. We're going to open up the Bible and speak the word. No, there's something happening internally that is a complete shift, because it's speaking from a plane of quickening that has not happened before now. It's like someone coming up and saying, here's $10 million. It's in the bank. Here's a checkbook. And you look at it and you realize, I have $10 million. Well, I can go out and do anything I want. You know that you have the money. Well, in this awakening or quickening that is happening, it's the same thing. All of a sudden you realize you truly do have all authority in heaven and on earth. Whatever you need, whatever you want, you can create it. It will be done. It's that level of knowing that is happening to us right now. And so we may be at a point of baby steps, where at first it may seem like a trickle. But the Lord has time and time again said, the only way you're going to win is by the word out of your mouth. And in the past, we may have thought of that in the scope of just prophecy and just kind of, out of that level of unawareness that we may have been in at that time, you're just prophesying and you're not sure if it's going to work or not, but you're just going to go after it. And that's fine. But we're talking about something different. We're talking about something that begins to usher out of the mouths of the sons, born out of a deeper quickening, where you really know and you see. And, it's really coming to the understanding that the only way things are going to move forward now is not through the realm of the soul or the physical or the mind, or manipulation or knowledge, whatever. The only way things are going to move forward for the sons is that they speak the word. That's that is their only defense. And the Father, in his loving kindness, has positioned the sons in a corner and watched them squirm as they've tried to, wrestle with the battle or try and work things out or come up with solutions. And he's just been waiting for them to realize that the only solution is you speak the word. You speak the word, and it's going to happen. And that's been the transition, coming out of the level where that's been done by faith to some extent into a level where it's going to be executed out of a state of knowing. Now more than ever, we have to speak the word. Speak the word constantly. What is it you need? Down to the minutest detail of your life. God is concerned about the minutest detail of the lives of the sons, and yet he's only given them one thing. It's the word out of your mouth. Nothing else is going to do it. Not your hands, your feet, your intellect, nothing. The word out of your mouth is what's going to bring the changes. And so, in that vision, as I fully realized that, who I was and what we had been given, is at that point that, actually going back, as that begins to happen to you, that's the point that the mantle of responsibility really begins to rest upon the sons. Up until that time, it's still a little bit of, baby step. But when this really hits, and that's when the mantle of responsibility to bring in the kingdom really begins to rest upon the sons. It doesn't rest upon them prior to them really seeing it. But once they see it, that seeing comes with a mantle or a yoke. And that's when the responsibility to bring in the kingdom begins to really rest upon the sons. Because finally they see and they understand. And so right now we're leaning into this. We're leaning into this heavily by taking baby steps, and that is through using the word out of your mouth. What do you need? What is the roadblock? What's happening? Speak the word into it. Break it. Change it. Whatever you need, just do it. And this can't be done from the realm of the soul or the realm of just pure obedience. This comes out of the quickening that is beginning to happen. This is not coming just by virtue of, this is what we have to do by faith, so we just do this. No, because you won't be able to. But as this is quickened to you, as the light comes on, even just a little bit of light within you, then you are propelled onto this path. And the more you use this and walk in this, the greater the light is going to become, until it fulfills the vision and it becomes such a bright expanse within you that you're eternally changed. So we're talking about what the next step is. How do we get into this whole level of manifesting the authority of the Lord Jesus Christ, taking dominion over the realms, bottom, top down. We begin to break it at the highest level, and it waterfalls down. But we're also talking about something that is probably going to happen concurrently, and that has to do with resurrection life. Somewhere in this flow of speaking and speaking the word. But we're not, here again, we're not speaking the word just out of rote, just out of obedience. It's coming because of the unction of the Spirit within you that has come alive. And so therefore you're being pushed into it because you're seeing it. It's like all of a sudden realizing, oh my gosh, I have money in the bank, and you didn't realize you had money in the bank. And so you're being pushed into it. And so as we move into this, I think that something is going to happen in the whole scope of resurrection life to us that is coming. All of this is stuff that we're reaching into, things that are coming, but they're coming shortly. And so I think the key is that we speak the word like we have never spoken the word before. I mean, constantly, until it seems like you're speaking it over every minute little detail, from the greatest things that are high and lofty to just, I need a parking place. It doesn't matter. Because a lot of it is just an exercise. You're exercising your wings. It's like a newborn chick. And God wants to kick you out of the nest, and you're flapping your wings a little bit. So at first you're going to, you try a few little things, but eventually you're going to hop out of that nest and fly. And so we're pushing, it's like we're these little hens, these little birds in the nest, and we're pushing to move fully into what is been prepared for us. So That's where we are. This is the next step. You can say, well, the visions that have come, okay, the rod of iron ministry that we talked about a couple of weeks ago, it's time for the rod of iron ministry. It's time, for moving in control and all of this. And it comes down to one thing. Where do you go from here? It's like, okay, it bears witness. The rod of iron ministry, yes. Moving in control, yes. All of these things. Okay, now how do we implement it? Where do we start? It's like these great visions, these great words that are just resting over us. And so it's like, okay, well, how do we start moving into this? And it's very simple. This is what has been revealed. Speak the word. This is where it starts. Even if it's like a trickle in the vision of Ezekiel, just a little bit of a stream that starts to flow. It doesn't matter. It's like priming the pump. It's just beginning. So you start speaking. And that's the only thing the Father's really asking of us. He's not asking of us to go wait on him in a corner for 20 hours a day or do, whatever. He's just saying, okay, speak the word. Speak the word. Just keep speaking it. And the flow, like the vision of Ezekiel, the flow is going to deepen and become a huge torrent that, is beyond what we even understand. And in the experience of this is where we will see resurrection life happen. And it was in this type of atmosphere over the years that I found myself entering into an expanded consciousness, because it was out of a time of waiting and beginning to speak by vision, by just it being real. Nothing like it is now, but yet something that, was very real at the time. And it was out of that minute level that these experiences came of expansion. How much more now, where we're positioned and where we are in God, and what we've become in God, and what He has spoken that we already are. And now, as the light fully comes on, it's going to be a flood like we've never seen, a flood that is going to fill the earth. Like, how's it go? It's like the waters that cover the sea, but it's a flood that's going to fill the earth and will be that which counteracts the flow of darkness in the earth. But it's our step into the transformation that is already happening to us right now. So that's our tracking notes for Tuesday evening.